Hi, everybody. Hey, everybody. Sorry, a little late tonight getting on. Had a little technical difficulty. It happens. Let me know when you guys get on so I can say hi. Welcome to Live at 5. I think this is what is this? The sixth one we've done? I've actually lost all track. So, I should fix my sign back there. We're going to be talking cannabis tonight. So, that was a request from the crowd, and I am so sorry about canceling the last Live at 5 in deference to 9/11. I felt like it was inappropriate to campaign on that day. So I took the day off and spent it with my family, and I hope you did too. Hi, Marianne. Welcome. Welcome to the Live at 5. If you're here, let me know. The Facebook doesn't like to let me know what the who's here. Hi, Ryan. How are you? I hope you guys are doing okay with the fires in Southern Oregon. I was listening to the scanner pretty much throughout the whole thing because I was so worried about, my former stomping grounds in Ashland and Talent and Phoenix, and it was so sad, and just I did a lot of crying about my old haunts disappearing in smoke. I hope you guys are doing okay. I'm sure the air quality is junk like it is here. If you're just jumping on, hello, welcome to the Live at 5. We're going to talk all things cannabis. Maybe we might deviate from cannabis, but we're going to start talking about cannabis. Please make sure if you are joining us to share this live on your Facebook. That helps more people find me, and I appreciate it. It's Friday. Hi, Jen. The air quality was better today here, which is super grateful for it. It was getting a little tiresome, but I tried really hard not to complain about it because at least I'm not working a fire line right now. I can't imagine how those guys do that job and the horrible air quality they have to deal with while trying to save people's property and lives. And it's just unbelievable. And so let's make sure we're keeping our firefighters in our thoughts and prayers as they battle this really unprecedented fire season in California and Oregon and Washington. Thanks, Amanda, and hello. So because I'm late, I'm going to just give it a couple more minutes for people to jump on. If you've never joined me on a Live at 5 before, welcome and happy to have you. If you are a seasoned veteran, you know what I'm about to say, which is I'm a mom of 3. Crazy things could happen behind me at any time. Don't worry. We have it under control. So I will be talking about cannabis tonight. I'm going to talk a little bit, probably more than a little bit, because that's what I tend to do. And then I'd be more than happy to take your questions and comments. I will make my very best effort to read those questions and comments out loud so that later on the YouTube, it won't be weird when I'm just randomly talking about something. I try to remember to do that. It doesn't always work out. I hope you all have had a wonderfully productive couple of weeks since I saw you last. I certainly have. Just a quick campaign update. Spent a lot of quality time out in the Liberty Development this last week. Met some great people out there that I hadn't known before, and listened to a lot of their thoughts and concerns about their neighborhood. And it was a great opportunity for me to really, listen to them about things that I hadn't thought about, and one of those big things was McCormick Road, and the imminent paving of McCormick Road. And if you aren't aware, because you don't live out there like I do, McCormick Road has become basically like the Autobahn of Rio Vista. People are using that straightaway to reach ridiculous speeds, shortcutting basically to town. They're using it as a shortcut from 12, which we used to do in the old days too, but McCormick wasn't paved, it was gravel, so you couldn't really get to a maximum speed. Well, now we're going to pave the whole thing from Highway 12 to town, and that's going to be an upcoming challenge. And so I'm glad that my friends out there talked to me about that, and I came home and immediately texted the chief of police and said, hey, what are we going to do about McCormick Road? The radar trailer has been out there at least once. That didn't seem to deter anybody, so we got to come up with some different strategies. Some of those things, some of the ideas that we're kicking around look like an additional stop sign at the intersection of McCormick and I can't remember the street name. I'm so sorry. But it looks like a stop sign to slow traffic down even further. Placing signage with speed limit reminders along the road. Also, it's probably time for Solano County, Char-Rio Vista Police Department to start ticketing people out there. It's a retraining thing. You have to, for those of us who've been around forever and used that shortcut, and we have to be retrained now that, there are houses there that have kids inside them. Maybe we should slow down. A ticket really helps that process. So anyway, look for more conversations about that upcoming. And if you have spent any quality time out in the Liberty Island subdivision, you will know, like I found out 30 seconds after I got out of my car, they have a horrible mosquito infestation out there. It's like the rainforest conditions. The city is overwatering their common areas big time. So they had called the Mosquito Abatement District. I made a second call to Mosquito Abatement District. They were out there inspecting, and hopefully they will be fogging your area soon. And they are great about working with the city in order to reduce watering schedules because, that's standing water is what produces more mosquitoes. So sorry, let's talk cannabis. If you just moved to Rio Vista, I'll backtrack a little bit. So let's just get this out of the way and say that I am pro-cannabis. There's a lot of people around town who like to say, hi, Patricia. There's a lot of people around town who say that Emily's the anti-cannabis candidate. That is not true. I voted for the legalization of recreational cannabis in California. I don't think that the government has any business regulating a naturally occurring drug with medicinal benefits. I also think it's a great revenue stream for cities, counties, state, because, once you make it taxable, it generates revenue. People are using marijuana anyway. Why not make it legal and make it controlled? So I did vote for it. When excuse me. And when the city started crafting their cannabis ordinance, I was very involved, both as a citizen and a member of Planning Commission, really trying to help shape what that cannabis ordinance looked like. The truth of it is, the city was in a position where they felt that cannabis coming to Rio Vista was an eventuality. And so they wanted to get out ahead of it and craft an ordinance that put the restrictions that we needed to make it a viable business in the city. That looked a lot like the, extending the perimeter where you can't be within so many feet of any place where children are going to gather, so a school or a daycare. That was a very thoughtful process. I'm being genuine with you guys. It was a very thoughtful process about that, because at the time, really the only place that could support a cannabis business because of their needs for land was the business park. So yes. What I never anticipated, and maybe this was naive, but my opponent is actually running on it as an accomplishment, was that the design basically the entire time and the motivation the entire time was for the entire business park to be cannabis businesses. The city was very excited. And again, I'm telling you this as private citizen who may have been naive. they were very excited to at the legalization of recreational marijuana because they saw it as a potential boondoggle for the city of Rio Vista. There was even a discussion about renaming the business park the Canna Park. There was conversation about having cannabis tour companies come in here to tour the facilities in town. So let's talk a little bit about what we have now, what it could be, and what the financial implications are for the city going forward. The reality of it is, folks, we can't do anything about the cannabis businesses that already exist and have already purchased land in the business park. That ship has sailed. Now, let me just caveat it just a little bit. There are currently three, as far as I know, there are currently three businesses with their doors open in the cannabis park, meaning they are up and running and, producing revenue. That is Rio Vista Farms. I would call them sort of the flagship of the business park. T4 Manufacturing, which is the one over on the what? Yeah, is it on Poppy? It's on Poppy House as you go towards Homecoming. So you go past the Ondive, and then there's T4 Manufacturing. That is a hemp facility. And Hayes. Hayes is a new addition, which is right across the street from Asta on St. Francis Way. It's actually a really cool building, and I like their signage. So as far as I'm aware, those are the only three operating in the business park right now. And I think that they are great. I think I really only can speak specifically about Rio Vista Farms because they are the only ones that I feel have really taken the opportunity to connect with the community, and they've done an extraordinary job. The owners of Rio Vista Farms, Chuck and Martin Wesley, have done a great job getting involved with local schools, with local organizations. They have contributed a lot of money to the city of Rio Vista. They rent previously vacant buildings on Main Street. They're all in, and that is to their credit. And they do employ Rio Vistans. They pay them a living wage, and they provide them with benefits. I have nothing bad to say about Rio Vista Farms. I think that they were a great fit in our community because they really checked all the boxes. Patricia asked, how many will there be total? Okay, so I'm going to go to my notes. And first, let me say, well, I'll get to that at the end. So this is actually according to Ron Cott, my opposition's website. So it's a 42-acre business park there. It actually doesn't even really look that big to me anymore. But when it was a wide open space, I guess, yeah, I can see it. It was a 42-acre business park. Right now, according to the city manager, there are 13 lots have been sold to cannabis-related businesses. I'm going to show you a little lot map here. I don't know if you guys can see this. Probably not. I'm going to show you. This is a super old lot map that is actually available on the city website, and I will, of course, link it in the comments. So the police department's right here in the. This is hard when it's reverso. The police department is right there in the middle. You can see the white square there, and you could probably make out where Rio Vista Farms is now. And the Ondive facility is right in the lower right-hand corner. So you can see the lots there. So 13 of those, according to the nearest I can put together, 13 of those lots have been sold to cannabis-related businesses. That can include hemp. That's probably manufacturing. That may be extraction facilities, things of this nature. Okay? So 13 out of 19 have been sold. Now, Phil, I'm going to answer your question, but if you could just hang on 1 second, I will come back to it, okay? So the grand total of what has been sold as of January 8th, 2020. So as of the beginning of the year, the grand total of land purchases in the business park, which has been all cannabis, has been $3.5 million in sales. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, and here's where it gets scary. As of January 2020, and we have sold $3.5 million worth of land out there. How did we pay $6.5 million to develop the business park? So the business park, the original proposition for development of the business park, that looks like sidewalks, streets, utilities. So when Rio Vista Farms, again to their credit, when Rio Vista Farms opened up their doors, all the utilities for that building, Rio Vista Farms paid for themselves. The city didn't have anything out there. There was no electricity, there was no water, there was no nothing. So it was going to be a big project to develop the land. And part of the reason, to be honest with you, part of the reason the city wanted to hurry up and get the land developed is because it helps sell the business park, right? It helps sell those remaining lots. It's easier to sell a developed lot. So the city estimated and approved a $4.3 million project, and Asta Construction, local company, got the bid, which was great, to develop the business park, put in those sidewalks, put in those roads. Y'all remember, my friends who live in Homecoming, y'all remember how long it took for that project to take place because we were driving on gravel roads for a good long while. It ended up costing $6.3 million. We went just slightly over what we said we were going to spend on that. So let's look at the difference. So it's estimated right now, and again, these are estimations because, and I'll tell you, we'll get to that in just a second. It's estimated right now that if you compare the sales of the land in the business park with the amount of money we've spent developing the business park, the city comes up about almost $2.5 million short. We as a city kind of decided, and my competitor, Mr. Cott, is actually puts this on his accomplishments, that they believe that they were never going to not sell it to anything but cannabis. I can't. Sorry, I'm having trouble coming up with my words tonight. I was on a almost 4-hour Zoom last night, almost a 4-hour meeting on Zoom. And I got off and I said, oh my gosh, I don't ever want to talk again. But here I am talking. So it was always the plan by your mayor, your current mayor, and the city manager that they would aggressively develop that business park to be cannabis. And it was never, ever, that I'm aware of, marketed to anything else. I know that when Mayor Norm Richardson, God bless his soul, was alive, he could have, I don't think he ever could have anticipated that the city would have not diversified the business park and sought out other industries to fill that park, because it's a horrible business plan. My competitor likes to run on his business savvy and his economic savvy, but I have never in my life, imagine you're an investor, or imagine you have a company come to you and you say, and the company says, hey, so I'm really excited about oranges. I just learned how to grow oranges. So I would really like to open an orange farm on your property. Is that okay? I've never run a business before, and I just learned by watching a YouTube video how to grow oranges. Would you like to give me would you like to invest in my company? Really, that's what we're talking about. God bless their souls. Most of these cannabis companies have never run a business before in their lives. They're just starting something out. And great for them for doing so, but if we're going to put all the eggs in that basket, counting on an industry which is not proven in California, and frankly, we are seeing that bear out right now. Cannabis is taking a huge hit And you can argue that it's because of over-regulation on the state level, over-taxation on the county and local level. You could argue the reasons why, but turns out we have more supply of cannabis in California than we have demand for cannabis in California. And we are now sitting on 13 sold parcels in the business park, and I don't see any construction going on. Do you all? So what did we get out of that deal? We sold $3.5 million worth of property. That's great. But my friends at Homecoming and myself who have to drive by it, and my friends in Trilogy who drive by it, are going to be looking at vacant weed-filled lots until whenever. And so there's so it was a horrible business strategy. And I just, I can't understand why you would ever say that that was one of your major accomplishments, was to take $3.5 million into the city's coffers in land sales that immediately went out of the door to pay for some of the improvements to the business park. So I want to play my little fun game with you and the guys, and then I'm going to take lots of questions, because I'm sure you have lots of questions. So this is a fun little game. So I said this before, and it's true. Every time I have a live at 5, I spend a couple days doing like what I call my homework. And that looks like me getting online and wading through the city's website, which, my God, is a whole nother thing. We've already done a live at 5 about it, and I could keep talking about it. So it takes a long time. It's totally worth it, though, because I always come through with some little nugget. So here's your little nugget for tonight. So if you want to play a fun game with me, you can go to the city's website, and you can go to the list of planning commission and council agendas, and you could just pick a random agenda. That's what I did. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to pick a random agenda. So I went through and I spent, I don't know, probably a half an hour just clicking on random agendas and looking to see what was on the agenda. Well, for a good solid, at least year and a half, what has been on almost every single agenda for the city council or planning commission has been approval of a conditional use permit or a development agreement or sale of a property to a cannabis-related business. Now, here are four businesses that are actually businesses in the Rio Vista Business Park. Rio Vista Farms, T4, and George 7280. Now, George 7280, that is actually the land. That's the building that Hayes is in. They actually lease their property from George 7280. Why it's called that, I don't know. So I'm going to count that as 4, even though it's really just 1. I'm going to count that as 2, except for it's really just 1. So I'm going to read some of the more fun ones that you've never heard of before, and some of them I've never heard of before. Magic Show, Pinnacle Gardens, Pacific Coast Botanicals. This is my favorite, MTDN Rio LLC, SSC LLC, Dorrington Holdings, Mother No-Till LLC, Emerald Capital Holdings LLC, Jaguar Holdings LLC. That one I'd never heard of. Steve Yeshin and Doug Riggs LLC. Never heard of that one either. Mark Fehrenbach LLC. How many was that? So that was, thank you, Jen. That was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's 14 right there. But I'm not kidding you guys. You could pick any random agenda, either for Planning Commission or for City Council, and find some company you've never heard of before. And a lot of that is because, excuse me, it does go on the City Council when, it does go on the agenda when a property is sold. I think we have some properties that have gotten conditional use permits and the property wasn't sold. That would just be a guess. I don't know where all these people have gone. I don't know if they've changed. Maybe they've changed their business name. I don't know. Or maybe they've bought it and they're just sitting on it. I really don't understand what the strategy is. Maybe somebody can explain it to me. So I'm going to go back and read some questions. Oops. I'm going to go back and read some questions since it's 5:30. Let's see. My sister is putting my website in the comments, and I thank you, Jen, very much. GoForGollinger.com. So how many will there be total? Okay, so the mayor says on his website, and this is not something that has ever been agreed upon in an open city council meeting, ever. There was a proposition by council member Rick Dolk to put a moratorium on cannabis sales once the magic number was achieved that paid off the $6.5 million development of the business park. That was soundly defeated. In fact, I don't even think the city council took it up. But the mayor claims on his website that with infrastructure costs covered, the council agreed to halt further cannabis expansion, leaving about 15 acres shovel ready for various other business opportunities. So 15 acres, Patricia. That's kind of a backwards way of answering your question. You asked how many will there be total. I can tell you how many there won't be, and that'll be about 15 acres worth. And Councilmember Cohn has pushed very hard and has said vocally multiple times that she would prefer that on this little lot map, the parcels that abut the back fences of our friends in Homecoming Housing right there, that those not be used for cannabis. And I think that's the least we can do, frankly, for that neighborhood. Phil says, I may have missed it, but would you be welcoming additional cannabis/hemp businesses in the future? Yeah, absolutely. I don't have a problem with and again, I don't have problem with cannabis and hemp per se. I just think it has to make sense in an overall business strategy for the city. Putting all the eggs in one basket and getting so excited that cannabis was finally legal and let's just open the floodgates and see how many will come. That was a terrible idea, and we're seeing that bear out right now. For example, we're going to have to rely heavily on the market here. But for example, in Liberty Island, there is an industrial park that went along with the housing development out there. And the plan was for the industrial park is that the developer was planning, I hope not still, was planning to build to suit a large indoor cannabis facility in that industrial park next to your houses. It'll look a little bit like what Homecoming looks like right now. And so the good news is I don't think you have to panic about that. And I actually don't think we need to panic about more cannabis facilities coming to Rio Vista, because I think probably what our panic is going to be is what are we going to do with all these vacant lots that are owned by out-of-town owners? Gosh, does that sound familiar? It sounds a lot like what we've got going on Main Street. I just don't see, I could be wrong, and I'll admit it if I am. I don't see the cannabis market booming the way everybody thought that it would. And so, I've got a lot of concern about the strategy going forward in the city to make us so dependent on the sales tax revenue and the land sale revenue from an industry that has not been proven out. We don't know what's going to happen. And so, I've got a lot of concern about that, and I frankly think you should too. My opponent, Mr. Cott, is very proud of it. He took a chance, and as far as he's concerned, it's paid off. I don't see it. Show it to me. We're $2.5 million in the hole for the city that we had to borrow out of our enterprise funds. So show me how this is a success. I can't wait to find out. Patricia's shaking her head. I do that a lot. Where does that money go, Tina Jo McBride? Are you asking specifically about the land sale money? If you're talking about that, it did legitimately go back into the business park, which is great. That's what should have happened. That the land sales legitimately did go back into the business park to develop it. Unfortunately, we came up short by at least $2.5 million. And, there's nobody knocking on the city's door right now begging to buy land in the business park that I'm aware of. So, we're sitting on $2.5 million short, and the city council at the last city council meeting did vote to take the $2.5 million out of the enterprise funds to cover the cost. So that happened. Is it a business park or a marijuana mall? It's a business park, and I just want to give a big shout out to the two businesses that operate in the business park and have for a long time and have nothing to do with cannabis, and that's California Vegetable Specialties. They are the United States' largest grower of endive. They have an awesome product, and you can actually stop by there and ask for a tour of their facility anytime, and they'll be happy to show you around. It's super cool the way they grow it. They grow it in these freezers basically because it requires really cold temperatures. It's incredible. And they're very also actively involved in the community. And the other business who's in the business park who doesn't get enough recognition is Insight Designs. Insight Designs is that little green building with the yucca plants and cactuses out front. And they've been there for as long as I can remember as well. And they also do great things in the community. They've been kind of holding down, those two businesses have been holding down this business park through some tough times. And, we probably don't do enough to shout out to the businesses we've already have out there, who, by the way, I don't believe were involved in the discussions about what the business park was going to look like someday. Just as an aside. So it's not the marijuana mall. I refuse to call it that. I will continue to call it the business park. I'm not going to call it a canna park. I'm not going to call it any of those things. I'm going to call it a business park because I think the more we talk about it being the marijuana mall or the canna park, I think the more detriment we do to the image of the city. I love Rio Vista, and I want to do everything in my power to put Rio Vista on the map for all the right reasons. And so we're going to call it the business park that happens to have quite a few cannabis manufacturers in it. So close to Bones, Patricia, I believe you mean so close to homes. And yeah, it was a terrible idea. The idea of a business park next to homes is a great idea. But you have to, as a city, sort of think about, okay, what is this going to look like? Does it make any sense to drive through, a business park filled with cannabis while going home from work every night? Or my favorite is the image of the school bus driving through it every day to drop off kids in homecoming. It just, did anybody think about that? Did anybody take a step back and say, that doesn't seem right, I don't know what it did to your guys' property values out there, but you definitely probably should check. Tina Jo McBride, bad business, Rio Vista, 13 marijuana shops and what do kids get? Yeah. Now, in defense of Rio Vista Farms, they have done a lot in our schools, and they've worked really hard to make connections, and they do give generously. So hopefully, let's cross our fingers, the incoming businesses will open doors, first of all, and will generate revenue, second of all, and will follow Rio Vista Farms' lead and get involved in the community. Marianne says, and as I understand it, And as I understand it, some, if not all of that money from the city came from the enterprise fund. So the $2.5 million make up the difference money, yes, that came from the enterprise funds. And friends, enterprise funds, if you don't know, go back and watch my water sewer live where we talked about enterprise funds. The city has 3 that I know of. The 2 biggest ones are the water sewer funds. That's your utility costs that you pay every month to the city of Rio Vista, and that goes into a large enterprise fund. And the city can legally borrow against it to fulfill other obligations. They do have to pay it back with interest. The problem is it's a bad practice, frankly, for the city to do. It almost never gets paid back in any city that I've ever heard of, because really you're just moving accounts around. But the reality of it is that's your money. You pay it every month, and it's essentially basically a tax on you that you just paid for the business park. So, you should have had a say in that, in my opinion. George Grapper, marijuana. Can it be somewhere other than by houses? So, I mean, yes, it could have. It could have been a lot of things, Patricia, to be honest with you. It could have been 1 or 2 cannabis facilities. Like right now, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but me personally, I'm okay with what's there right now. I think Rio Vista Farms, T4, and George's building on St. Francis, that looks great, by the way, has great curb appeal. They're doing a good job on that. That looks great to me. Let's throw in a couple restaurants. Can we throw in a sporting goods store? Can we throw in I don't know, can we throw in a construction company yard and shop? Can we throw in the towing company that got evicted so that the cannabis park can come in? I don't know. I'm just thinking outside the box. Can we diversify the business park so that it makes more sense to be next to a housing development? Yeah, I think we can. The problem is we've already sold the 13 lots. So, the city's in a bad position. I'm not going to sugarcoat it in any other way. It is what it is. Maybe quickly explain what the enterprise fund is. Did I do that, Marianne? Did I cover it? If not, I'd be happy to go over it again. A lot of loss over $2 million bad business. It was a calculated decision by the city manager and the Mayor Cott that this is what they were going to do. They were going to exclusively sell the business park to cannabis facilities. They, at the time, felt like cannabis facilities were like knocking down their doors after legalization. And they may have been. It certainly did feel that way from a planning commissioner's perspective, where it was like every month we were talking about cannabis and approving cannabis permits. It certainly did feel like they were knocking down the doors. I've heard a lot of pushback that, well, a lot of the reason why some of these businesses haven't been able to open their doors and haven't been able to, get started is because the city had put too many restrictions on them. The development agreements weren't favorable. The city's hard to work with. I've heard all those reasons. Those may all be legitimate reasons, but I think what it really comes down to is that cannabis isn't what it used to be. You could blame that on COVID, but I think honestly we were seeing a downturn even before that. It's a supply and demand factor, right? It's basic business. If every city in California acted like the city of Rio Vista did, which frankly, quite a few of us did, quite a few of them did. If everybody acted like we acted and went, let's go, come on in, here you come, we'll cut you a deal, build, let's go. We don't care what you're doing, and we'll craft our ordinance around you and not, around what's in the best interest of the city. It's no problem. If every city acted like that, we have a huge supply of cannabis in California, not to mention the illegal supply, which already existed. I'm not sure, friends, that there's that much demand for cannabis. I could be wrong. And I think a lot of cannabis industry was counting on other states lifting their restrictions on recreational cannabis in order to sell their product across state lines. I think some cannabis industries thought that we might see a change on the federal level about cannabis. None of that came to fruition. We may see some changes on the November 3rd ballot where I believe Nevada, Idaho, I think there's about 9 states who are considering legalizing recreational marijuana. So we could see a change. That could happen. But again, it's up to the voters. Marianne says what I meant was George Graffer is the George. Yes, it's 780 or whatever. 72800. Who owns the buildings where Hayes is on St. Francis. Yes, Marianne, thank you so much. Tina Jo McBride said, did the city residents have a vote in that at all, or it was left to Rio Vista officials? Tina, it was left as Rio Vista officials. Just keeping it real, the marijuana ordinance was crafted by the city council. It was crafted by the city council and came before the city council without a lot of public input. I was there, and I can't tell you because I don't know why people did not get upset and up in arms about it. It wasn't until the city started talking about opening multiple dispensaries. Now, the Rio Vista Farms is a dispensary, so you can actually physically walk into Rio Vista Farms and buy product. You cannot at T4 and you cannot at Hayes. So it wasn't until people started getting concerned, like, are we going to have 10 dispensaries in Rio Vista, that people really started looking at the ordinance and how we can maybe pull back a little bit and limit some of that access and some of that availability to just any kind of cannabis industry who wants to come here. And Mayor Cott also says that as one of his accomplishments that he worked with the opposition in order to craft a better ordinance. That's not true at all. It wasn't until 40 people showed up at City Hall and demanded an adjustment to the ordinance that something actually got done. He did not seek out the opposition public, opposition people. They actually demanded it. And so, I wouldn't put that on my list of accomplishments because that's not what happened. Kira said, what happens if the other lots are never built on? Are we able to sell the lots to other businesses after a certain amount of time if never built? Kira, that is a great question. And the answer is no. So because they are sold, those now belong, those are the proud owners of, I don't know, let me pick a name. Magic Show. Magic Show is now, let's say, the proud owner of lot, I don't know, parcel 8. I don't even know the parcel numbers. They change so often. So let's say he doesn't want to build anything. Now he could sublease it. He could lease the land to somebody else who could put something on it. The city could attempt to buy it back. But frankly, for the amount we sold it for, I don't think we could afford it. So we're going to, again, have to create a strategy with our zoning ordinances and possible vacancy tax on vacant land. Carrot and stick. This is a conversation we just had about Main Street businesses. We're going to have to make some sort of financial incentive for these companies to get off the shtick and either fish or cut bait, frankly. Yeah, Kira, great question. Really good. And it's the same old story. It's out of town owners who use it as a tax write-off and don't really need to build anything right now, or their funding's source dried up, or they don't want to risk it in this current market, so they're just going to wait. And who, if that's the case, who pays the price for that? The people who have to look at it every day. And frankly, our fire department who has to go out and do code enforcement on it because the weeds are taller than your head. Marianne says, complacency. People don't pay attention until after the fact. They're busy. So it's easy to sneak things through. Yeah, Marianne, you're 100% right. There's a lot of it that's complacency, and a lot of it goes back to the non-transparency of City Hall. You and I both know the system is set up so that you aren't informed. And so that's what Live at Fives are all about. And that's why Live at Fives will continue. I don't know if I'm going to keep it on Friday, though, because I'm hoping we get out of COVID and we can actually have a life on Friday nights again. But there will be an opportunity for you to speak with your mayor after November 3rd, either virtually or in person. I will always be accessible and available to you, and you'll know about things that are coming up on the city council agenda before they're on the city council agenda. There won't be any surprises under my leadership, and a lot of the cannabis was a surprise. And I'm plugged. I look at it this way. If I'm, plugged into city government, which I am, and, I don't have quite the record of the candidate for council, Deborah King, where I think she's missed one meeting in the last 3 years. I don't quite have that record, but my record is pretty good. I attend city council meetings. I've been on planning commission. I've been on Parks and Rec. I would say that I'm plugged into the city, and even I was caught unaware as to what was really going on with the plan for all cannabis all the time in the business park. And my phone's ringing. Sorry about that, guys. It's my mother. She's forgotten what day and time it is. Can you shoot her a text? So more questions. Happy to take them. Jen says, if you want to reach me, you can email me. She is right. You can email me at emily@gofforgollinger.com. I'm a super fast responder. You see my sign behind me. I do still have signs available, not a lot, but I do still have some, and we are delivering this weekend. So if you want to get on the sign train, or if you know anybody else who wants to, just shoot me an email, or however you want to get a hold of me is fine, or you can just comment here. I will be in Liberty, so I will be canvassing Liberty this weekend, and knocking on doors and then running away 6 feet, because I really can't wait to meet you. Those that I haven't met, every person that I have met so far in the Liberty development has been so kind and so great and so right on. I'm super stoked to have you guys here. And then after I'm done with Liberty, I'll be walking Homecoming because those are my people too. And I can't wait to see you guys out there. And I will be knocking on your door and then running 6 feet away. So I'll be like standing in the street saying hi. If you would like to help walk the precincts, so to speak, and be a boot on the ground, you can absolutely volunteer by going to my website and filling out a form. My intention is to walk every neighborhood of the city of Rio Vista except for Trilogy between now and November 3rd. I really think it's important, and I think you should ask all candidates who are running for office to make the effort to get to see you face to face, whatever that looks like, whether that's virtually, in person, however we need to get it done, because you guys are the reason why I'm running. We do have 2 upcoming candidate forums. One is for the council candidates. That'll actually be on September 21st at 7 p.m. and that is sponsored by Rio Vision. You do need to send out an email in order to get an invite for the Zoom. I don't know why. Hi, Donna. I don't know why, but you do. And I actually don't have that email handy. Maybe Marianne does, and she can put it in the comments. And then the other forum opportunity will be for the mayors, and that will be September 28th at 7 p.m. And same deal applies. You have to ask for an invite to that Zoom. I think they are limited to 100 people. So if you want to get on there and ask a question or ask a question of one of my opponents, please feel free to do so. What is my dog chewing on right now in the background? Okay, it's a dog toy. It's been verified. Tina said, thank you. I do love how open and transparent you try to be. Rio Vista sure could use some of that. I agree completely, Tina. I harken back to the good old days that weren't that long ago of Mayor Norm Richardson, where if you had a question and you called Norm or dropped by City Hall or whatever, the man would literally drop everything to make sure he got back to you. And it was immediate. It was like, okay, I may be having lunch right now, but wait, one of my constituents has a question. That is the kind of mayor I strive to be. You're basically hiring me for a job, and I work for you. And if I'm not doing my job, serving you, then I'm not doing my job well. Amy says, hi, Amy, my neighbor. Sorry, you got home from work early tonight, I see, so you got to get on tonight. Either that or I'm running late. Amy says, is there any plans for doing upgrades to the skate/dog park anytime soon? So many holes in the fences, and there has not been a morning that the sprinklers are not on. Lots of puddles. Boy, ain't that the truth. Every single morning I go to the dog park, there are at least one break of sprinklers on, including on Mondays, which is a no water day in the city of Rio Vista. So I'm actually going to shoot off an email after our Zoom and mention the water again for the 100th time in the skate park, because again, like we talked about in Liberty at the beginning of this thing, you overwater the lawns, guess what happens next? You've got mosquitoes. And yes, the fences are horrible. We did do that. The city did do that temporary fix on the small dog park with the straw wattle, because we had lost 3 dogs underneath the fence there. So there was a lot of begging and prodding, but it happened. Thank you, Greg Malcolm, and thank you, Public Works staff, for getting that done. But that's not a permanent fix, and so we are going to need to address those issues sooner rather than later. So what I can tell you, Amy, is that it's on my radar. I don't know that it's on anybody else's. I have heard through the grapevine, and this is a little. It was in the city's budget. They talk a lot about the future capital improvement projects that the city is going to make, and one of those projects was a play structure at Val de Flores Park. Now, that's the first I've ever heard of that, so I genuinely don't know. And Parks and Recreation Commission, unfortunately, is not meeting at all anymore. So I don't know where that came from, and nor do I know where they would put one. So that's kind of a non-answer answer and saying that I don't know. But I will make sure to shoot off an email this evening and let them know that, they're overwatering again. Hello from Liberty. Hi, Donna. I love my Liberty people. Donna, I'm going to come canvas this weekend. So I'd love to have your help if you are going to be around this weekend. Will you shoot me a text message? My number is 209-224-1615. Patricia, I'm not allowed to Anna, Patricia said, why not walk Trilogy? I'd love to walk Trilogy. Trust me. I'm not allowed to canvas Trilogy because I don't live in Trilogy. The other candidates who do live in Trilogy are allowed to walk Trilogy. That's all I'm going to say about that. But I am very fortunate that I do have wonderful support in Trilogy, and those friends of mine will be walking on my behalf. So I don't physically have to do it, but I will be coordinating, I guess, and coaching from the sidelines. You go. I really am very blessed with a lot of wonderful support from our Trilogy community. They are, they honestly occasionally make me cry because they really do. All the people that I've come in contact with in Trilogy have been so welcoming and affirming about what I'm talking about, and who they truly, truly care about the future of this community where they chose to retire. A lot of our Trilogy folks moved here from someplace else that was completely different, bought a house in a town they didn't know, but this is, they're now in a position where this is where they're going to spend the rest of their lives. And so, of course, they have a vested interest in Rio Vista being the best it can be. And I so value their input, their support, I could just go on and on. They honor me with their endorsements on a regular basis. Marianne says she'll walk for me. Marianne lives in Trilogy, and she's also one of the people who has just honored me with her sage wisdom and counsel for quite a long while now. And Donna's going to text me. Great. So this cannabis discussion, we are actually going to do twice. One of my dear friends, Robin, couldn't actually be on tonight because this is the first night of Rosh Hashanah, and I did not remember. So I kind of missed it on the calendar. So she's unable to join us tonight. So, but she really wanted to have a discussion about cannabis and had lots of questions. So we're actually going to do this twice. The next cannabis discussion will be again on October. Sorry, I don't even know what month it is, friends. I have mush brains. Will be October 2nd. So we're going to talk cannabis October 2nd. So that leaves October 25th available for topics of your choosing or my choosing. Dang, we got a lot of people on. Make sure you guys are sharing. This is great. I would like to spend the next 10 minutes taking questions about anything. Go. Don't be shy. This is, you guys, so COVID is weird, and COVID doesn't give you, the voter, a lot of opportunity to really question the candidate. So this is it. This is your opportunity, unless I see you face to face, which I hope I do. I can't wait to hug again. I'm a hugger and I'm a handshaker, and so this whole social distancing thing is so weird for me. So this is your chance. Ask me a question. Shoot, go. I'm ready. I'm not afraid. Please make an effort to email the magical. Patricia said, I won't be there on the 2nd. We have racing open shows with a live at 5. Be on your site. Yes. So the live at 5s, I think we've gotten them all on YouTube so far. Will be available on YouTube after. It's usually we usually eat dinner, and then I make my loving husband, who is my campaign manager, put it on YouTube because the technology fails me. So it's, give it a couple hours and it'll be available on YouTube, which is linked at our website. So you could absolutely watch it after the fact. Yeah, and I missed you at the dog park too. Every time you come to the dog park, it's just, I'm probably exhausted or I'm on a meeting. I have had a meeting every night this week, I think. And I have like 4 more next week. So, your mayor is very busy, which is great, but, I miss you at the dog park. Um, how would you market the new business to a business park? Great question, Marianne. Thank you. So I am not a marketing expert. I don't think anybody at City Hall holds a degree in marketing either. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think they do. And part of the reason how I know that is how we have marketed the business park for the last 20 years. And that is by doing nothing. We do not, as you know, we do not currently have a planning manager for the city of Rio Vista. We do not have an economic development department at the city of Rio Vista or a community development director. Those are all paid positions at City Hall, and they are not filled by a person. So that's your first problem. And hiring a person for the community development director position who has a strong marketing background is a great place to start. However, I think we are at the point as a city where we really need to hire somebody from the outside. We really need to contract these services out, and not just marketing the business park, but marketing Rio Vista as a whole as a great place to live, work, retire, play. Rio Vista is a gem, and we need a marketing firm to take us on as a project and be results driven. And we're going to lay out what those results, those benchmarks need to be. And of course, the business park will be rolled up into that. But we have lots of opportunity to sell downtown as a place to go, tourism as a place to go. We have lots of opportunity to market Rio Vista. We just are sitting on our hands, and I guess, I don't know, we just don't know how. To his credit, City, I just gave him a promotion. Council member Ruse has been the only person on the dais that I've heard say the M word. That's marketing. He is the only person who has said the M word in the last 4 years, like ever, that I've ever heard. And he actually said what I just said, which was, clearly we can't do it. We need to get somebody in here who can. And if that means listen, it's an investment on Rio Vista. Yes, is it going to cost money? It's going to cost money to market the city. Yes. It's an investment. You can't make money unless you spend money. And, any marketing firm worth their salt will agree to meet benchmarks for results-driven marketing. So absolutely, that's the way. Thank you for the question, Marianne. Patricia says, one day I'll just show up at your door. Wouldn't be the first time or the last time, Patricia, that you just show up at my door. Kira says, I'm not familiar with mayor elections since it's my first big election year voting. Thank you, Kira, for registering to vote, and thank you for voting. I'm so excited for you. What day will you become mayor once you win? I love the positive thinking. Is it immediate, or is there a set date into office? Great question, Kira. So election day is November 3rd. When talking to the registrar of voters, they're anticipating that we probably will have results either the night of November 3rd or the day after. In the city of Rio Vista, you're not sworn in, so you aren't official until the first city council meeting in December, when you are sworn in, but you don't actually take your seat. Super complicated, unnecessarily. You don't actually take your seat until the first city council meeting in January. So the first Tuesday of January, I will officially be your mayor, but I will be sworn in at the first city council meeting in December. I'm hoping and praying that we've got City Hall open at that point for business, because I want all of you to be there. It's going to be a great day, and there will be tears. And so, hopefully we can open up City Hall and we can all celebrate together. I hope that answered your question, Kira, and really, legitimately, thank you for registering to vote. Thank you for doing your part. I cannot emphasize this enough. You guys check on your friends and neighbors. If they're not registered to vote, you need to help them. Marianne says, sounds better than trying to fill the slots with employees by contracting it out. Yes. That's what we're doing with the planning director right now. We, I guess, kind of gave up and said, oh, well, we can't really hire a planning director. We didn't really try. Planning manager. We didn't really try, but by hopes and prayers and unicorn farts. It didn't happen magically. So we're going to go ahead and contract that out. So, I mean, there's that. Marianne says that's BS, and I don't know what she's talking about, but okay. Patricia said celebrate in the parking lot if needed. Yeah, absolutely. We'll, I love to celebrate, so there will be celebration either way. 2 months later, yeah, no, we're actually, Marianne, it works just like the presidential election or federal, state, county. They all work that way. It's a period of time. It's for the peaceful transition of power between one administration and the next. Traditionally, what is done in cities is when a new city council and mayor are taking on, when incumbents are not reelected. Traditionally, what happens is that period of time between November and the first meeting in December, which is probably one meeting, nothing happens. Traditionally that outgoing mayor and city council people would take their foot off the gas and say, okay, we're just here symbolically, and then the next wave comes in and starts their new term. Good questions, though. Really good. And so Patricia said, was the last planning manager the one I dealt with when trying to go large? Yes, it was Isaac George, who is no longer with the city. We did have an interim planning manager named Lamont Thompson, who was fantastic, by the way. But he was here on a contract basis because he had another job. I think he was a real estate agent also, or a broker. And so he unfortunately left us. And so now we have no one. And okay, let me take that back. Actually, we do have someone. We have our city manager, who is a city manager and not a planning manager. City planning manager is actually a pretty specialized job. It's not like just anybody can go in and be the planning manager. Isaac was a challenge to work with. You are correct, Patricia. He was a challenge. That's all I'll say. But at least he was a planning manager. Yes, it's the lame duck period, Marianne. That's exactly right. It is just, just sit there and hold the seat for a minute. Keep it warm, basically. So what I would like to talk about at the next live at 5, if you guys are, excuse me, if you guys are agreeable to it because the timing is perfect, is I would like to talk about how you're going to vote. Not specifically how you're going to vote, but how you're physically going to vote. I want to talk about mail-in ballots. I want to talk about access to your voting locations, where those are. I want to give you all the lowdown on the easy ways to vote this time around from Solano County Registrar of Voters. Your ballot will be coming in the mail. They are dropping on September 28th in the mail, so feasibly you're going to have it here probably the first week of October. So I think it's timely for us to talk about some of the concerns about the post office and the reliability of your vote, making sure your vote counts, where can you vote in person. I'd like to put some of those rumors to rest, and just as a civic duty, so really nothing about me personally, I think it's very, very important that as many people as possible vote in this election. Whether you're voting for me or you're voting for somebody else, I want to make sure that your vote counts. So if you would like, I would like to talk about that next Friday. Kira says, yes, please. No problem, Kira. It's done then. It's just a one vote. Only one person gets to vote. It's the first person who responds. They get to make the decision. Patricia says, I'm going to the voting poll with my son. It's his first time. That is so great, Patricia. I love this story. So I'm voting in person too. I always vote in person. It's just one of my traditions. I actually show up. This is not a joke, and my husband makes fun of me. I actually have to pack a little kit, right, to go vote. I take pictures of people with me. I take pictures of my grandparents, and I put them in front of me when I vote, because my grandparents really were the ones who, in those kitchen table discussions about politics, really helped shape who I became as a civic leader, and my care and concern and compassion for community and for working families and for the elderly. That all comes from them, and so I feel like every time I vote, they're with me. Their names were Dawn and Helen Hudson, and they were the best things on sliced bread, and I miss them so much. But they get to vote with me every November 3rd, and I will proudly take them with me this time around, and I'll be taking my kids too, so they can watch their mom vote for herself for the first time ever. Yeah, it's a great tradition to start with your kids. This year's weird because of the COVID, and I know a lot of people are freaking out about voting in person. But if you do have a kid, I can't tell you how wonderful it is to take your child with you to vote. And I cannot wait for my daughter, especially, to watch her mommy vote for herself. It's a big deal, y'all. Tina McBride says, can we have a Caltrans discussion anytime? I'd love to have a Caltrans discussion, and I'll see if I can get some Caltrans people on the discussion. Yes, so let's actually plan that for October, because we're going to do voting next Friday, and then the following Friday we're going to do a cannabis discussion again, and then we'll do Caltrans after that. Kira says, I haven't voted in person yet, but I am this year for sure. I look forward to next week to learn how it works. No problem, Kira. I will tell you that, yay, Kira. And the first time that I voted in person, I was scared to death. I was like, oh my God, am I going to do it right? So let the seasoned veterans tell you how it goes. And this year probably will look a little different because of the COVID. I know some people who are working the polls this year. Speaking of, well, I'll get to that, who are working the polls this year, and it's going to be a little different. There's going to be like some hand sanitizing at the door, and there's going to be like I don't think there's going to be stickers this time. So it's going to be a little weird and different, but for you, it'll be like normal because you don't know any different. But I'm so proud of you, Kira. I can't wait to see you vote. Maybe we can coordinate. I'll go with you. Ruse is in Caltrans, correct? Yes, Ruse actually works for Caltrans, and that was who I was thinking of. Maybe I can get Ruse to pop on into our live at 5 and see if he can take some specific Caltrans questions, because what I have learned about Caltrans is that what you think you know, you probably don't know, because probably there's something in the works you haven't heard about yet. But I do have a lot of friends who work for Caltrans, so it's great to know people who work for Caltrans, because you literally could call them and ask them a question and they'll find out for you. Ruse is one of those people too, by the way. Amy said that's awesome about my grandparents. Yeah, it's a tradition I started, and when they passed, it was so important to me that they were very, very proud voters. Their generation, the greatest generation who lived through World War II and watched their parents fight World War I, they took voting and your responsibility as a citizen very, very seriously. And so every time I vote, I think of them, I honor them. I'm going to cry. Okay. Yes, Patricia Dodd works for Caltrans. So I'll email him, see if I can get him on the thing. My husband does jobs with Caltrans, and he dislikes when on Caltrans jobs. Well, I've heard that before, too. They're not perfect. What else you guys got? So next week we're going to talk about, I was going to mention something about the poll workers. If you go to Solano County's website, Solano County Registrar of Voters, and I can actually link it in the comments probably, there is a great opportunity to volunteer to be a poll worker. If you've never been a poll worker before, it is fun. And there's all kinds of jobs. So it's not just standing in the polling place and handing out stickers. They need volunteers to count votes. They need volunteers to open envelopes. That actually is all volunteer. Those aren't paid people. So they train you and they give you a job, and you show up for your job and you do your job. So there is a need for poll work for volunteers for this year's election. Rio Vista is basically fully staffed. They are definitely looking for people to work in Vallejo and Sassoon City. I believe they're having a little bit of a shortage. So if you are not doing anything on November 3rd besides voting, please go to their website and sign up to be a volunteer. I am. So you can too. I'm running for election and volunteering. So because the system is going to be it's going to be a lot this year for our registrar voters. I'm not going to mince words about that. They're expecting the highest voter turnout that they've had in years, and because a lot of them are going to be mail-in ballots, it's going to be a busy day for them. So the more volunteers we can give them, the better off we are. Thank you, Jen, for posting the link. Dang, you're good. Caltrans could also use a little transparency. Yeah, absolutely, Tina. That's for sure. Really, let's not mince words. All government could use little more transparency. So let's start at the local level and see if it can become contagious. So I hope I answered your questions about cannabis. It's a big topic. And really, I'm actually sort of glad we're doing two. So on the next one, we'll dive into it a little deeper. And, your takeaway should be that, the city had a plan that they were very, very, and our mayor is very, very proud of it. And that was to make a very calculated risk at the expense of the citizens of Rio Vista and say, we're going to build a cannabis park and it's a business park and it's going to be exclusively cannabis, and we'll see how that works out. So, I wouldn't put it on my website, but he can. And I hope you, on November 3rd, remember that and remind other people of that we need to be really careful what we're proud of. And I wouldn't choose that. So, any other questions for me before I go? I'm going to send my husband to Manny's tonight in Isleton because we always talk about dinner at the end of these. I'm going to send my husband to Manny's because their wedge salad is like my new go-to addiction. It's so good. They put like 2 pounds of bacon on this thing. And then you put the blue cheese dressing on it. It's like a salt bomb, y'all. No Patty Harrington? Was Patty here tonight? No Patty. Any other questions, guys? You can go to my website, find out how you can volunteer, request a sign. I do still have some. I would love people who would like to walk with me or for me. And, I won't make you do a whole neighborhood. If you want to do a street, I would take somebody to do a street. That would be great. It actually is fun, I promise you. Hopefully Donna's going to walk with me in Liberty this weekend. If a couple of you at Homecoming would like to volunteer to walk, it's really just knocking on your neighbor's doors and just reminding them to vote on November 3rd and handing them a piece of paper. Oh, happy birthday, Caden! How old is he now? God, I swear to God, Patricia, yesterday Caden was 3, and we were running around the preschool. Time flies. Mom, my mother just got back from Manny's, so that's great. Thanks for the invite, Mom. Oh my God. Any other questions for you guys, or you just want to talk? I'm happy to stay here and talk. I miss people so much. Okay. Tomorrow is St. Vincent de Paul's Walk for the Poor downtown. I will not be there, but feel free to. I believe it starts at 9, maybe 10. I'm not real sure on that. Check your Beacon. There was an article on the front page of the Beacon about it. Yeah, Marianne, I should be able to walk with you as your guest. You would think such a thing. That's a no. So here's the deal with Trilogy. They have some very strong restrictions on how you can campaign in Trilogy, some of which I disagree with, but it's not up to me. I don't live in Trilogy. I don't pay a mortgage in Trilogy. I have no, I hate to say this like this, but I don't have a dog in that fight. So, I think going forward, probably concerned citizens in Trilogy, members of the HOA, should appeal to their HOA to maybe relax some of those restrictions. Excuse my stutter. Relax some of those restrictions. But for now, it is what it is. And so those are the rules, and we're going to play by the rules. The suicide walk. Patricia, I think you were talking about the NAMI walk that the Leo's Club was going to do. It actually was supposed to happen last weekend, but they canceled it because of poor air quality. At least that's what I heard. And the air quality on last Saturday was horrid. So that's what I had heard. I don't know if I haven't heard anything about them rescheduling. If I do hear something, I'll let you know. Anything else, you guys? All right, it's 6:15. I'm going to sign off. It has been a joy and a pleasure as always. Make sure you tune in next Friday where we're going to talk all things election, which I love to talk about. And then the following week, we're going to talk about cannabis again, and we'll do a little more in-depth dive onto some of the development agreements, some of the money parts of it, the sales tax that's generated from the cannabis facilities, where's the money going, who's keeping track. That's all important stuff too, and we didn't get to cover it tonight, but we'll talk about it in 2 weeks. And then the following week, I will work very hard to get a Caltrans friend on here, and we will talk about Caltrans. It is a hot topic. A lot of people want to know what's happening with our bridge, what's happening with the ferry. Oh my God, that thing. And, what's happening with the Highway 12 projects that are coming. And so, yeah, so we'll talk about Caltrans. That puts us at October 9th. And then we've got basically 3 more weeks, and then you guys are voting for me. Woohoo! So if you guys need to get a hold of me for any reason between now and next Friday, please feel free to reach out on my website, email, text, whatever you need to do. I'm always available for you. And make sure that you're talking to your neighbors about Emily for going for Gollinger. It's because word of mouth is how this job is going to get done. And again, if you'd like to volunteer to help walk the precinct, to be boots on the ground, I'd love to have you. Frankly, it would make less work for me. And if you would like to stop by my house, Patricia, feel free. Not tonight, though, because I'm having a wedge salad, but maybe tomorrow. Yeah, we do need a walk. I agree. So anything else before I sign off? Okay. Yay, Patricia. Oh, the suicide prevention sign, Patricia? Or my sign? Or both? I don't know. All right, so I'm going to jump off, guys, and go eat my dinner. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you again next Friday if I don't see you before. Thanks again so much, everybody, and have a good night.